Hey everyone, Big Sunny Factor, aka in Salerno. I'm here with my friend Rose Deighton, who I'm sure you guys know. I've mentioned her a lot about getting her on the show, the podcast, or other things, but she's here to do this thing. So I guess really quick, talk about yourself, Rose.
I'm Rose Deighton. I am a sophomore at University of Iowa, and I'm currently studying creative writing. So while film isn't quite my area, I do appreciate.
We're artists, you know,
I do
kind of the
appreciate
same
Star
field.
Wars.
She appreciates Star
Yeah,
Wars,
big Star Wars fan.
So in case you guys didn't know, this is our Rogue One, a Star Wars story review. This film takes place between episode 3 and 4, and it's about this band of rebel spies who have to steal the Death Star plans. You'd think that'd be pretty exciting, but well, we're gonna talk about it. This was our review. As always with reviews, we're gonna talk about what we liked about the movie. I will say that I liked Jyn Erso, but I didn't love her. And I want to like her because she's the main character, and I feel like you have to be very enthralled with the main character's story and what they're going through, much like how we were with Han and Luke and Leia and Finn and Poe and Rey. So I didn't really connect with her the way I wanted to, but I found with repeated viewings I liked her more because I understood more what she was doing. Still couldn't say I love her as a character, so what do you think about that?
I kind of agree in the sense that it was harder to connect with her than like Rey, for instance.
Yeah.
I love Rey, but I do like her as a strong female lead, and I really like how Star Wars has kind of moved away from the more Luke or like male lead into a little bit more of a female lead, which I think can appeal to more of a female audience in the sense of Star Wars, so I appreciated that.
Initially when they announced the female lead in Rogue One, I was like, ooh, that's kind of overkill because we have a huge female lead in Rey, but at the same time Rey is part of an ensemble, and in this one it's all Felicity Jones. And I thought like, okay, if they do another one after this, that's kind of overkill. Not to say that females shouldn't lead Star Wars films, because clearly that does work. The only characters that really stuck out with me were K2SO, the droid, I'm gonna try, Chirrut Imwe. Sorry, I think that's close
better
enough.
than I can do.
Those two were the most memorable in the sense that they were very fun, they were funny, they had some great scenes. I could probably pick out one scene for each of them where I'm like, that was sort of their memorable moment. When you think of let's just call him Donnie Yen because he's Donnie Yen. When you think of Donnie Yen, you think of that first scene where he's killing all those stormtroopers when we first meet him. And then with K2SO, I mean, like, you could just go on and on about the moments he has, like his death, for starters.
All the witty lines.
All the witty quips and stuff. Totally unlike C-3PO, which is great. Just, like the banter about the gun, like why does she get a gun and I don't? Yeah, I guess the other characters, like Bodhi, I think his name was, Cassian, Baze Malbus. That's the whole team, right? That's
pretty much.
Yeah. So they're not as memorable. They don't have any real moments that really stick out. I can't really say they're great characters and they serve their purpose, but they're not. Like, when I don't think Rogue One, I immediately think those characters. I don't even think Jyn Erso, which is kind of important since she's the main character. So, did you have any memorable characters?
I agree with Donnie Yen. I really liked his saying, I'm with the Force and the Force is with me. Is that what it was?
I'm one with the Force.
Yes. I thought, I really liked that. I liked his character and the development of his character, and he felt like a very, almost Obi-Wan character in the sense he brought people together and just kind of like a grandfather character almost, and a wise person, or even maybe Yoda that everyone kind of like listened to and appreciated, and I felt like Jyn Erso kind of bonded with him more than some of the other characters maybe.
The Death Troopers are really cool, even though you don't understand a word they're saying. I couldn't understand a thing. I mean, when they were on screen, they were really cool. They had the green eyes. I wish we saw more of them. Let's talk about Jedha. Jedha was pretty cool. I remember it being described as sort of like the equivalent to like the holy city, Jerusalem. Like this is a place where people go on Jedi pilgrimages. That's pilgrimages. That's right.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool, and how this is like a holy land for the Force and the Jedi, and it's where the Guardian of the Wills is, and where we meet Chirrut and Baze, who were also Guardians of the Wills. What did you think of Jeddah?
I liked it. I agree with you. It felt like a very Jerusalem scene. I felt like I was in a biblical story almost looking at it. So I agree with that. I just wish we had more backstory and more time with it because it was destroyed so quickly.
Yeah. And I guess it also sort of enforces that the idea of the Force was kind of inspired by Christianity and the belief of this higher power that is beyond us, which is God. God is cool. Let's talk about the CGI characters. So we have Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia in this movie. Obviously Peter Cushing is dead. There's no getting around that. So what do? You bring it back through CGI. And I was a little scared about that because I didn't think you needed Tarkin in this movie. And after seeing it, you really do. He's a central figure in the Empire. Basically third in command next to the Emperor and Vader. And it kind of enforces that, you know, Krennic, the bad guy, he is very much the underdog, and he's trying to rise up to the ranks, even though he's got a fancier outfit than everybody else. I think that should be worn by Tarkin.
Yeah.
Sometimes the eyes will wander and it's not exactly looking at the main character or the person they're talking to, but otherwise it looked really good for Tarkin. Now Leia, on the other hand, I did this when I first saw her.
Yeah.
I actually just like, oh my gosh, that's not a pretty image to end your movie on. But I guess after a second showing, it works. It does its job. It is Princess Leia, and at the end of the day, it's supposed to bridge episode 3 and episode 4, and it does a good job. I mean, it'd be weird if it was a totally different actress who didn't look like Carrie Fisher.
Right.
So I think this was the best way to go. What do you think of all that, the CGI and stuff?
I agree, and I had talked with you earlier. I didn't even realize Tarkin was CGI until later.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't realize it, and then I saw Leia, and I was like, that is not Princess Leia. So then I was like, okay, what other characters are CGI? Because they brought back like Bail Organa, and they brought back a lot of other characters. And then you had told me it was Tarkin, and I was like, oh wow! Like I hadn't realized it. So I think they did a pretty tasteful job with Tarkin, but Leia, on the other hand, not so much.
Yeesh.
No.
I gotta give you props for knowing who Bail Organa is.
Yeah.
I think that went over a lot of people's heads, like, oh yeah, that's Bail Organa. I think it's just a nice nod for prequel trilogy fans. Some people don't like them, but Bail Organa was one of the good things of the prequels, and if you read all the mythology and the books leading up to Rogue One, it makes sense that he is there. And obviously you get that little nod that he's going back to Alderaan. It's like, no, Bail, don't go back to Alderaan! Yeah.
And he's gonna entrust the message to Leia, which is whom he trusts.
Yeah,
so.
I trust her with my life.
Yeah.
Also, let's talk about that really quick, that R2 and 3PO cameo. I like that they're continuing that tradition of like keeping them in every single movie, because I thought like, that's gonna be tough.
Yes.
Getting them in there. And I thought like, okay, if they can have Leia in there, they can obviously get R2 and 3PO in there in the same ship. I forget what the ship's called, but the thing that they go in.
The rebel ship.
The rebel ship, yeah. Okay, they can squeeze them in there, but they're actually at Yavin 4, just checking stuff out, like, oh, they're going to Scarif, why doesn't nobody listen to me? And for those of you who are Rebels fans, Chopper is in this for a very brief second. You have to literally be looking for Chopper in this movie to find him. I didn't even notice him when I first saw it, and then someone pointed out to me, and it's Chopper. I don't know if you watched Rebels or...
I haven't.
It's okay. It's a good show.
I bet.
You should check it out. Let's talk about just the fact that this is classic Star Wars again. You know, with The Force Awakens, we got everything was the same, but slightly different. It was all, you know, updated X-Wings, TIE fighters. And this is very much classic Star Wars as you remember it. It's everything that you remember from the original film, as well as 5 and 6. And then, you know, some things from the prequel films that you don't like to talk about, but like Bail Organa.
Can't ignore.
You can't ignore.
I agree, it was in the world of classic Star Wars, but it was new. So it delivered something new and new characters to us, but it was in that familiar world. So I guess that was my favorite part about it, really. The old and the new, like, coming together to create something different and new, but something that we're like, oh, we know what's gonna happen, or just even just the little hints of like, oh, this is from the old Star Wars.
Yeah, or even just like, like that whole final battle, that I don't feel like it came close to kind of undermining or overpowering what happens in A New Hope, but just barely. Because that is their first big victory, as the title crawls, or the opening crawl says in episode 4. So it makes sense that that is like their first big battle. You see footage of the older pilots from episode 4, because they're there, and it makes sense that they're there. So then when you see it, when you see episode 4, it's like, okay, these guys have seen some stuff. They've been here since the beginning. All that was fantastic, seeing classic Star Wars on screen again. And speaking of classic, let's talk about Darth Vader. Yeah, that was awesome. I don't think there's really anything else to say about it. It was just straight up Darth Vader, the one that we've always wanted. We've always wanted this this rebel-slaying Darth Vader that we've never gotten. We've always heard about him. You see him in books and comics. We've never actually got to see Vader like really like go to town at the rebels. And we finally see it, and it's everything that you want it to be, and it's one of the best scenes in Star Wars history, I think. And also seeing him in his castle, which is a old Ralph McQuarrie concept that never got used. Seeing him in that scene was awesome. Hearing James Earl Jones voice him again, knowing that he can still voice him after all these years is pretty phenomenal. What did you think of Darth Vader?
I agree, it was very phenomenal, and I liked his death choke that we got to see him back at. So that was really fun.
The third act was great. There's so many like little Easter eggs, nods to the original trilogy. We get X-Wings, we get Y-Wings, we get the whole Rebel fleet, we get Star Destroyers, TIE Fighters. It's phenomenal. And you cut back to like multiple things. You cut back to Jyn Erso and Cassian getting the plans. You cut back to Bodhi and Chirrut and Baze on the island fighting. You cut back to the space battles, and just how they orchestrated that back and forth was just phenomenal.
It was kind of, to me, reminiscent of Star Wars, the 6th episode at the end.
Final battle.
Right, when they're fighting on Indo, isn't it?
Endor, yeah.
Endor, yeah. Close. Endor, yeah. So just kind of the cutscenes between Luke and Darth Vader, and then them on Endor, yeah.
Definitely one of the best Star Wars space battles, which we don't get a lot of, to be honest. We got the one in Empire Strikes Back, and you can kind of count. Actually, the Death Star one was kind of a space battle, but they were literally in the Death Star fighting, I guess you can sort of discount that. Well, do you have anything you want to go over good-wise, or just did we cover it all? Or?
I think we're good.
Cool. Okay, let's talk about what we didn't like. At the beginning of the movie, there's this little. Jyn's mom gives her a kyber crystal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this could actually like have some cool ramifications for the story. This could be, she like trusts the Force. It's like they're obviously Force believers, and like maybe Jyn like loses her faith in the Force and just decides not to believe it at all, aka atheism or something. But they don't bring it up. They don't mention it. They don't talk about it. It's just, here's a kyber crystal, yay! It's a stretch, but like maybe it's like reminds her of her mom and her past. But it's a kyber crystal, you know?
Right.
It's like it powers the Jedi's lightsabers. I mean, because it's important, right?
Right. It was sentimental. I felt like is what you were saying with the mom, but other than that, it didn't have any deep importance or for the fact it's what lightsabers are made of. You think they could have done more with that? Yeah,
you'd think it would be like, oh, maybe she has to use the kyber crystal or
as
something,
a weapon,
or she has to give it to Chirrut and he makes his staff into a lightsaber. I don't know. That would have been a little overboard. I talked to you about this before. There's a healthy amount of exposition in this movie, but there's not the right exposition in this movie. We flash forward like, I think it's 10 years, 15 years later, after Jyn Erso's family is torn apart by the Empire, and she's just in this prison. You don't know why, you don't know what she's been up to. She's just in this prison. And it's not until that the rebels capture her and take her to Mon Mothma that you realize, oh, she's a criminal. And I mean, the trailers made it out like, you know, this is the rebellion, I rebel. It's like, okay, she's like a rebel in her own definition. In this, she's just a criminal. You don't know what she's done, you don't know how she got there. She's just a criminal. It's like, I would have liked to have seen, you know, what she did to get there. You know, you say that Saw Gerrera raised her. Why can we see some of that? Can we see like her being trained by Saw Gerrera, explaining why she's this capable woman, capable of taking care of herself? I don't know, do you agree or what do you think?
Yeah, I agree too. I was like, okay, why is she a criminal? What is she being held for? Is she dangerous? Why aren't we finding that out?
Yeah, and I guess her motivations too.
Yeah.
It's just, it's totally unclear.
Especially if she joins the rebels. Was she clearly not a part of the rebels, but was she doing some sort of rebel behavior, or, you know?
And she clearly despises both the rebels and the Empire.
Right.
You know, the Empire for destroying her family,
right.
The rebels for, Saw Gerrera was a rebel and he abandoned her, so she just doesn't want anything to do with the war. But I didn't get that until I saw it a second time.
Right, right.
And, you know, maybe, I don't know if you, I know you only saw it once, so
yeah.
you didn't really...
Yeah, I understood she was tied to like Saw Gerrera, and I didn't know if that's why she was in prison, maybe because of his rebel activity and she was tied to him. But I don't think they really knew who she was, did they? Like, I don't...
Yeah.
As the daughter of... Somehow
they figured out that she was Jyn Erso, because she was going under a code name, I believe. So, yeah, a lot of little details, just like, you know, we're not going to explain this because of convenience.
Right. Time, too.
Time, yeah. It's been talked about how this film is similar to the likes of The Dirty Dozen or Saving Private Ryan, like really gritty, dark war films, and I think it's way too safe to be even compared to those. It's a good attempt. It's not terrible. I'm not saying it's a terrible war film. It's just, I'm not saying you have to go all dark and gritty and bloody like those movies, but you'd think they would try a little more harder to make it really different and make it actually feel like a war film. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I didn't see it as a war film either. I saw it more of an action-packed kind of movie, but not a gritty war film at all. And I felt like, especially with the droids humor, I felt like that kind of detracted from what would seem like a gritty war film. So I don't think I feel like their intention wasn't to make a war film.
I mean, yeah, I think they were trying too hard to be a war film, but then be a Star Wars film, but then not be a Star Wars film. And
still make it family-friendly, quote-unquote.
Yeah, which, I get it, it's Disney, but at the same time, it's like, that shouldn't be their focus. It should be just to make a good movie and make a gritty, dark movie. And, you know, yes, they all died at the end, but it's like, you kind of assume they were all going to die at the end.
Right, right.
I think they should have gone a little further into making it really warlike, but it just, it felt like an action film. If you want to compare it to those types of war films, you gotta try a lot harder, I think. Or the main characters, the main team, as you will, they're not really well developed, I think. You have good moments, like K2SO is a funny character, and you get he's a reprogrammed Imperial droid. You don't really need a lot of backstory with him. But like Chirrut and Baze, they're Force users, or at least Chirrut is. If you're gonna do the backstory, give us the full backstory. We don't really know much about these guys and what makes them tick, what makes them who they are today. Same with, I guess, Cassian, kind of. Yeah. He's probably the only character I can really say is well developed. You get it, he's been in this war since he was 6 years old. He's doing everything he can for the rebellion. He's done things he's not proud of, he doesn't like, but he does it anyways. And at the end of the day, you know, when they're told not to go fight, he's like, you know, even this is the one chance I have to disobey an order that I don't feel right about. And
even with him, you don't know why he's been in the fight so long. Was his parents in the fight, or like you have all these questions even regarding him?
Exactly. So. And the Bodhi, the pilot, why did he defect? What caused him to defect from the Empire? It's just like, oh, yeah, this guy defected from the Empire, he's good. It's like, why? Do you have any ideas about that? Or?
Yeah, well, not exactly that, but I think it would have been cool to see Jyn Erso's father, just kind of his working against the Imperial system within the Imperial system.
Maybe show him sending Bodhi out.
Yeah.
Like this is going to help the rebellion go out there, and then you see him defect. That's another problem. This film is too short, I think, and too direct and to the point. You know, I want to see things fleshed out. In some of these war films, you need to flesh out the detail, especially if it's something like The Dirty Dozen or like a war spy film, which essentially this is what it is. You have this team and they have to figure out what's going on, and they go in and they have some difficulties getting in, but they get in, they do their thing, and then some people die. Or all of them.
Yeah, they could have even spread it over multiple movies, just building up to the final war scene to make it more warlike. So we have that background in exposition, I guess, and make it to that gritty war that we wanted.
Maybe we should have had Rogue 2 and Rogue 3. Saw Gerrera, he's a cool character. He's very kooky at the end, but he doesn't do much. They build him up as, you know, he's the Clone Wars character, as I said. He's coming from cartoon into live action. That's exciting. Make him do something exciting! He looked at Bodhi and that slug octopus thing. That was weird, by the way.
Yeah.
Made that thing read his mind, and
it was supposedly supposed to too, like mess up his brains, and then it didn't. We didn't really see that carry out.
That could have just been cut altogether.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, he's the adopted father figure of Jyn Erso, but that's it. Like, yeah, he adopted her and she became part of his rebellion. But that's it! You don't know anything else! He doesn't do anything else. He shows her the transmission from her father, but then he's just like, okay, I'm gonna die. Go ahead and go. I'm just gonna die. It's like, why? Why can't you just go with the guys and help save the rebellion? You're not doing anything, just sitting there. I mean, albeit he's kind of dying.
Right.
But still, like, you're still walking, man.
I agree with the fact that he should have left with them. I think that would have added another dynamic. And also, it's just like, if you're really into like helping the rebels, or not even the rebel cause, or going against the Empire, I feel like you should have fought with your last dying breath. And I think it would have been really cool to see him in the final fighting scenes or war scenes, which we didn't get the privilege of.
And it's like, I will not run no longer. What are you running from? The Empire? Why do you have to surrender to them? It didn't make any sense to me. I know I'm sounding very negative at this point, but sorry. Film is subjective. You can like it or hate it. Because this film is so concise and plot driven and just continues to focus on the plot alone, nothing else, you don't really get a chance to play with the mythology. Like, there's a lot of things they introduce, like, you know, the Guardian of the Wheels and the Kyber Crystal. This is a real prime chance to really, like, get into things, how they were before episode 4. And, introduce new concepts going forward, and I don't think they do a good job at doing that.
I feel like it is so plot driven, you miss those moments, and especially having only seen it once so far, it's so easy to miss the moments of mythology because you're so focused in on the plot and where they're going next, and what planet are they going next, and who do they have to find. So yeah, I agree.
I'm not a huge fan of Krennic, and you know, Ben Mendelsohn's fabulous, whatever, but all he does is complain about how he doesn't get to do what he wants. Yes, he created the Death Star, but why did he create the Death Star? Why did he think of the idea of creating the Death Star? Why is he so concerned about rising up to power? Why is he so concerned with being up with Tarkin? Because all he really does is just show off the Death Star, and then Tarkin takes away from him. Then he runs to Vader and whines, Tarkin took my Death Star, help me! And he's like, no, Tarkin and I are tight. We're not doing that.
I think he's a pretty weak villain, especially compared to Darth Vader and Tarkin, and I just feel like he doesn't have control, obviously, over his team, because Jyn Erso's father is under him, or he's supposed to be controlling him, and clearly he isn't. So I think he's kind of a failed villain.
Failed attempt at it.
Failed villain.
Got a great cape though.
Yes.
For sure he's got a great cape. One thing we forgot to mention is the absence of the crawl. That really messed me up. Because it's just a long time ago and yada yada yada, then boom! We're in the movie. I needed something to, like a subtle transition into the movie, not just, I don't know if you agree or...
I totally agree. I love those.
I mean, I was totally for them not having a crawl. It's fine. It's an anthology movie. I get it. But have something cool to substitute the crawl. I think that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
I think that's about covers it.
Okay, well, we'll switch things up. Let's hear your final thoughts first.
Okay, I thought it was a great movie that connected episode 3 and episode 4 as we mentioned, and I think any fans that like the feel of the old Star Wars movies and the old saga will really appreciate what they tried to do with this film. There were some things that we didn't like about it, but I think overall it's a great film, and I would definitely recommend it to any Star Wars fans.
Cool, and on top of that, I'm going to agree with a lot of what you said, but I think it's a good film. It's not a great film, and I think there are a lot of missed opportunities to make it something really different than what they've done in the past. And maybe, you know, this has always been an experiment. They will learn from this. They will go on and improve from their mistakes for these anthology films. The characters aren't that great. Jyn Erso, I like her, but I don't love her. We didn't even talk about her that much, which just goes to show what kind of a character she is. It's a great connected piece to episode 3 and 4. It'll fully explain why things happen the way they do in episode 4, and I think any Star Wars fan will love how much love is put into this movie as an homage and a love letter to original Star Wars content. It was great seeing all the original stuff and all the original characters and all the practicals, everything we love about Star Wars in this movie, just not the memorable characters. So it's a good movie. It's not a great one. And it is the best prequel out of the 4 now.
That's true, I agree with that.
So that concludes our review of Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you not care? Let us know in the comments below and give this video a like if you want. And subscribe to my YouTube channel where you can check out my short films, trailer reactions, and the Vince Salerno podcast, which will be resuming in 2017.
Yay!
And hopefully Rose will be on. This is the first, I've talked about Rose a lot, this is the first thing we've been able to do together. We are fellow artists, we like collaborating, we like Star Wars, yes. So glad to have you on the show, not the show, but glad to have you on the thing, Rose. Do you have anywhere people can follow you or whatever?
Yes, I don't have a Twitter, but I do have a Facebook, Rose Deighton. It's just type my name and you'll find me. And then I have an Instagram where I post probably more than Facebook, at Rose_knows and then number 15.
She knows.
Yes, I do know.
And then you guys know where to find me. All my stuff will be in the description below, and I'll put links to Rose stuff as well. This might be the last video I do of 2016. I'm gonna try to do a top 10 of 2016, but it's gonna be tight, very tight. So thank you again, Rose. Appreciate you being on. And with all you guys, if you haven't seen Rogue One, go see it. And if you've seen it already, go see it again.
Yes.
If you want to.
I am.
I think to close this, I'll just say one more thing. Bring on episode 8. We're ready. Well, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless and peace out. You'd think they would try a little more harder to make it really different and make it actually feel like a war film. I totally forgot how that connected to my last thought, but Star Wars just can't seem to get a break with tentacle things.
So true.
I don't know how you feel about the Rathtars.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was just a fun moment to like, hey, look, Star Wars creatures.
Yeah.
But you can disagree if you want. All right, thanks for watching. God bless and peace out. That was. Let's do that again. Okay. All right.